Okay, let's dive right into this. We are officially on day 65 of the conflict between the US, Israel, and Iran. And in today's explainer, we aren't just going to look at the front lines. We're going to explore how a localized conflict structurally ripples outward. As you'll see, it's affecting literally everything, from top-tier geopolitical diplomacy all the way down to your ability to catch a budget flight this summer.
To make sense of the true scale of what's happening right now, we'll be using a hub-and-spoke approach. We're going to cover 4 key areas. First, the latest peace proposal. Second, the fragile Lebanon ceasefire. Third, the global jet fuel shortage. And finally, smuggling the internet.
So, starting right at the diplomatic core with Section 1, the latest peace proposal.
Right now, behind the scenes, diplomatic maneuvering is really intensifying, quietly mediated through Pakistan. And the rhetoric framing these back-channel talks, it is incredibly sharp. There's this stark ultimatum from the intelligence arm of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps. They've stated publicly that the decision-making space for the US is severely limited, framing Washington's choices as either an impossible military operation or a bad deal.
But on the other side of the political spectrum, there is already massive pushback before the ink is even dry. President Donald Trump weighed in directly, and he indicated he expects to dismiss the pending offer entirely. He stated that he can't imagine it would be acceptable, arguing that Iran hasn't paid a big enough price for their actions over the last 47 years. So you can see the immense political hurdles this proposal is facing right out of the gate.
And this brilliantly illustrates what is actually on the negotiating table. Through state-linked media, we've gotten a look at Iran's reported 14-point plan. Now, these unconfirmed demands are vast. We're talking a permanent end of fighting, financial compensation for damage to Iran's infrastructure, the unfreezing of assets and easing of long-standing sanctions, and a withdrawal of US forces. Now, complete withdrawal from the entire Middle East is pretty unlikely, but this specific point likely refers to pulling back from the coast and ending the current blockade on Iranian ports. Now, the absolutely crucial thing to understand here is how this proposal is structured. It's built in phases. Iran is effectively saying, hey, we aren't going to talk about the biggest issues until we get immediate relief. Phase 1 requires the US to lift the naval blockade in the Strait of Hormuz and provide guarantees against attacks during the talks. Only if that happens will they even consider moving to Phase 2, which is discussing broader relations and the massive, incredibly thorny issue of Iran's nuclear program. And regarding that nuclear program, we are actually seeing reports of a potential, albeit very slight, softening in stance. The US has demanded a 20-year freeze on nuclear enrichment. Initially, Iran was only offering a 5-year freeze, but current unconfirmed reports suggest Iran's counterproposal has shifted to a 15-year freeze. So that 5-year gap right there, that is exactly where the absolute hardest negotiations are going to take place.
But let's take a quick pause here and connect this back to reality. While diplomats are trading 14-point plans through Pakistani mediators, how is this tense diplomacy impacting the actual, literal ground war right now?
Which brings us to Section 2, the fragile Lebanon ceasefire.
Well, despite the broader peace talks happening above it, the situation down on the ground is highly volatile. The ceasefire is hanging by a thread. Just this week, the Israeli military issued urgent new evacuation warnings for more than 10 towns and villages. Crucially, these include areas in the Nabatea district, which sit entirely north of the Litani River, meaning they are well beyond the areas Israel currently occupies. To really grasp the strain on this ceasefire, you have to look at the tactical realities. Hezbollah was never actually part of the official ceasefire signed between Israel and the Lebanese government. Israel maintains it has the full right to strike what it views as imminent Hezbollah threats, while at the same time, Hezbollah continues attacking Israeli positions inside the southern 10-kilometer exclusion zone. They're doing this using low-cost, high-capability fiber-optic drones, which is actually very similar to the tech we've seen used in Ukraine. And the human cost of all this? At least 30 people have been killed since just Friday. It is, as many observers are noting, a ceasefire in name only. So the crucial point to remember is this: conflict in the Middle East rarely stays in the Middle East, which leads us to a question you probably weren't expecting. How is a naval blockade thousands of miles away threatening your summer vacation plans?
Let's zoom out to Section 3, the jet fuel shortage. Welcome to the third ripple effect.
Remember the Strait of Hormuz we mentioned back in Iran's Phase 1 demands? Well, because of the blockade in that vital shipping lane, the transportation of fuel across the Middle East has slowed to an absolute crawl. Let's use the UK as a prime example of why this matters to you. The UK imports 65% of its jet fuel. They only have 4 remaining domestic refineries left. So when that global tap gets squeezed, countries that are heavily reliant on imports face the very real, very immediate risk of last-minute flight cancellations and total passenger misery.
And we're already seeing the financial casualties piling up. Over in the United States, budget airline Spirit recently went bust. And a massive driving factor, honestly the final straw for them, was the soaring, completely unmanageable cost of jet fuel. It's a stark cautionary tale for the aviation industry worldwide.
Now, to prevent more airlines from going completely under, governments are actually being forced to change the rules of the sky. Normally, airlines operate under a use-it-or-lose-it system. They have to fly a flight slot 80% of the time, or they forfeit it to a rival airline. This creates a bizarre, almost comical scenario where airlines are forced to fly half-empty ghost planes just to keep their slot, wasting precious fuel right in the middle of a shortage. So to fix this, the UK government just introduced a temporary rule. If an airline normally flies to Ibiza 6 times a day, they can temporarily drop it down to 4 times a day. This ensures those 4 flights are packed, it saves fuel, and it protects their future slots, all provided they give passengers at least 2 weeks' notice.
Okay, so we've looked at the physical movement of people and resources, but what about the movement of information? How are civilians inside Iran getting news to the outside world during a record-breaking 65-day internet blackout?
That brings us to Section 4, Smuggling the Internet.
Now, what's really fascinating about this digital frontline is highlighted by one staggering number, 23 million. That is the number of Instagram followers BBC Persian has inside Iran right now. To put that into perspective, that is almost a quarter of Iran's entire population. Millions of people actively seeking out blocked and routinely jammed information right in the middle of a 2-month-long national blackout.
So, how are they actually getting online? Well, it's a multi-layered system. Officials and academics who push the state narrative, they're granted state-sanctioned internet. Everyday citizens are heavily pushed toward domestic apps, but those carry severe security and surveillance risks. Now, those with money can sometimes buy expensive mobile bypasses. But the most widely used, truly independent method of bypassing this massive shutdown is happening completely underground, using smuggled Starlink satellite terminals owned by Elon Musk's SpaceX.
And let me tell you, the grassroots effort to get this hardware into the country is incredibly dangerous. Listen to this quote from an anonymous smuggler. "I am smuggling Starlinks to fight the internet blackout. We have sent over a dozen, and we are actively looking for other ways to smuggle in more." They are taking these massive risks because they believe it's absolutely crucial for Iranians to be able to broadcast the real, unfiltered picture of the situation on the ground to the rest of the world.
Which brings us right back full circle. From covert satellite dishes smuggled across borders to your summer flight to Ibiza, down to the lives of those living north of the Litany River. Everything is connected. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What happens to our global economy, our regional borders, and basic human access to information when they all hinge on